If there's one thing I love more than anything else, it's a great big dirty burger. But now that I've entered contest prep, I know that they're going to be more few and far between, which I think is the perfect time for me to make a video like this because now I'm one of you guys. I'm no longer trying to build muscle. I'm no longer accepting having the fat come on as part of building muscle. I'm now trying to drop body fat, getting ready to step on stage. So I've done it before and I know what it's like trying to fit fast food and the foods that you love into a fat loss diet. It can be very tricky and it can cause a lot of guilt and can cause a lot of binging as well. So that's why I wanted to make this video, because I just did a little one on Instagram just then talking about how the concept of food in terms of pizza and burgers and all those things that we love gets very misconstrued and very demonized in the fact that they talk about having to do 400 burpees or 6,000 push-ups to burn through these foods, to burn through the calories that you got from these foods. Firstly, that's not entirely true. It's only if you eat over your caloric threshold. So if one thing you don't really get told is your body has to burn through 1,000, 2,000, even more than that calories every day just to keep itself alive. My maintenance calories without exercising are around, I don't know the exact number, but they're around 3,000 plus. That's without exercising at all. That's just my body keeping itself alive. So if I was to take that concept there, it would only be after I'd ate 3,000 calories and then had one of those burgers, then it would take the extra 4,000 push-ups or whatever it was to take away those calories. But it's all, you have to take into consideration that you're already burning through a lot of calories just from day-to-day energy expenditure, walking around, and your body trying to keep itself alive. So I think it's just, there's a lot of demonization going on there, which, as I said, causes a lot of issues with the food you're eating and a lot of the issues around the mentality with the food you're eating. Causes that dangerous relationship where when you eat something like that, you feel guilty, which can then move on to binging, undereating, and just an unhealthy cycle where you don't end up reaching your goals anyway. So the approach I take with my clients is I'll give them a meal plan, but I'll also give them their calories, protein, carbs, fat, and fiber. And I'll teach them from the start that it's always best to build from the ground up in having your fruit and veggies first and the important things that we all know that are good for you. So build from the ground up, and then if you've got all those things in, if you've had enough of your protein, if you've had enough carbs, if you've had all your micronutrients, and you're feeling good, then if you have some excess calories left over, then you can add in some takeaway. And that's in a perfect world that's going to have that. But there's going to be days where you're going to have birthdays come up, there's going to be events, you're going to have friends come that want to go out for dinner, and you can't live your life saying, no, sorry, I can't go out. I have a meal plan that I have to follow. And you can't go out and then feel guilty and have the F it all approach where you just go completely off the rails. There's got to be a middle ground, and that's what I'm going to try to help you find today. So there's a few different approaches when it comes to adding fast food and the foods that you enjoy into your normal lifestyle and still getting the results that you want. One of the main ones is just planning things a little bit in advance. The perfect example is yesterday. I had a bit of a crappy day in terms of my food because if you're in Brisbane, you know, we just went through a lockdown, a 3-day lockdown because of COVID. And it was a very snap decision at 12 p.m. that the gyms were going to open up, everything was going to open up, and the Brisbane lockdown would end. So I quickly jumped on Messenger, jumped on Instagram, started messaging all my clients to get people booked in because I wanted to get as many people booked in before people started to go away for the Easter holidays. And this meant that I didn't really have time to prep all my foods properly. And it meant that I didn't have time to eat either because I had to go straight into work and start training clients. Which meant by the end of the day, my food was a little bit all over the place and I wasn't on target. So I sat down for about 5-10 minutes and just started running a few numbers. I felt I needed a lot of calories, so I looked at Domino's, chucked that in my fitness pal. It was going to be too much fat. Took that one out, then tried KFC. Going to be too much fat again. Took that one out. And I started to run a few different things. I knew I had some up and goes in the fridge at home, so I chucked some of them in, and lo and behold, that ended up being good. And it also meant after that, because I'd worked my macros pretty well, and I'd already had fruit and veg throughout the day, so I had my good things. It meant that I had room to still be able to get I still had potato gems afterwards. Now this is fine for me because I've still got quite a few calories to work with. I'm still on 3,300. What about somebody that's on 1,500 calories? Then, to be honest, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to accept. A few different ways you can look at this again. There's always going to be a range of different options, but I'm just going to try to give you a few as they come to my mind. One option is you go for that meal and you eat the foods and you worry about the consequences afterwards. You either increase your energy expenditure, but don't go to the extent where you're just running and build that negative relationship where you can't enjoy food without having to go and exercise right afterwards. The other option on that same level is you can have that bigger meal where you know your calories are going to go over and you know you're going to be over your targets, and then you can compensate by bringing it down for the next few days. So let's say you went over by 500 calories, which is probably not an unrealistic amount. Then maybe over the next 5 days, you drop out 100 calories over those next 5 days to compensate for that increase. So there's two ways there, and there's multiple ways that you can get around it. I just don't want you to feel like you can't fit in these foods, because what it ends up doing is, when we all know, as soon as you take something away, that's when you want it most. It's like a kid, when you take his toy away, that's when he's going to want it. And we haven't grown out of that. We're still kids. If I'm going to say to somebody, you can't have chocolate, the hell are they going to want to do? They're going to want to grab as much chocolate as they can. So fit in your chocolate. That's the lesson here. Find a way to fit in that chocolate. Another way is, so I'm just going through them as they actually come to my head. Planning in advance. So if you know you're going out to a restaurant that day, then maybe look at the menu in advance and be like, okay, I'm going to have this meal. That's going to be so many calories there. And that means I'm probably going to have to drop out this meal or this meal to compensate. So it's all about compensation, either compensation on that day or compensation on the other days before or after that meal. And then I would actually recommend, just on a day-to-day basis, have a little bit of room for the treats that you like. Whether you've got a sweet tooth with chocolates and lollies, have a little bit of chocolates and lollies built into the meal plan. Again, build from the ground up, have your fruit and veg first, and then at the end of the day, or whenever you need to throughout the day, just have that little room for about 200 to 300 calories of fun foods. That way you can still get your micronutrients in that you need, you're satisfying your cravings, you're still heading towards your goals. One thing I'd recommend though is finding a good multivitamin as well, and just some other supplements that you feel like you may be lacking in, because even when you are eating all your fruit and veg all the time, it's good to have that backup in just having a multivitamin, just in case you might be lacking in a certain area. So I hope this video helps. The main points is just, don't feel like you have to restrict yourself and cut out everything, because that's when you're going to want it most. And that's when it causes binging, undereating, and just a very unhealthy relationship with food. So the overall lesson is, yes, you can fit in your fast food while you're losing weight. Just be smart about it. If you feel like this video has helped, I would greatly appreciate it if you gave me a like, if you subscribed, and did all those awesome things, because I love making these videos, and overall I do it to help people, but it's also just nice to see that I'm supported. And if you like it, then I'll just keep making more. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.